Hello everybody, happy All Valley Tournament Day. Why am I saying that? If you cannot tell from my headband swag, we're highlighting my favorite movie of all time, your favorite movie of all time, The Karate Kid. And no, not the remakes, the original OG Karate Kid. Why the All Valley Tournament do I highlight? Is because for those of you that are a little bit more versed in The Karate Kid, December 19th happens to be the day that tournament was held. If some of you might recall, the poster from the Cobra Kai clearly shows the date as being December 19th. And I'm starting the segment off with that day, the finale of the movie, because it represents a culmination of the different perspectives that I have on the Karate Kid that I will share with you here today. So for many people, the perspective on the Karate Kid is on the surface. So from a superficial level, there are three main perspectives people have on the Karate Kid. The first being that it is a story of revenge for somebody who's gotten bullied to finally get their chance of redeeming themselves. The second is that the Karate Kid is just another teeny bopper movie. And the last is that it is a coming of age movie. And I'm here to tell you that you're right, but you're also wrong. Let me tell you. So first, the thought about it being a story of revenge is true. Daniel gets his revenge on the Cobra Kai on the day of the All Valley Tournament. But a theory that was always out there in the web, on the internet, was Daniel really the bully after all? And that theory was much more fun years ago before there was internet, because now that has been exposed and is highlighted in the recent series Cobra Kai. Because if you look at it, Daniel actually may have been considered the bully of Johnny. If you recall the first time they met on the beach, Johnny even warned him, "Don't touch that radio, punk." What does Daniel do? He touches the radio, he thinks he's a hero, gives it back to Ali, then he gets his ass whooped by Johnny. And not to mention, Daniel stole Johnny's ex-girlfriend. Wouldn't you want to kick somebody's ass if he stole your girlfriend? I sure would. And guess what? That's what he did exactly. The next point of Daniel being a bully, think back to the soccer tryouts. What happens? Yeah, Bobby kind of hooks him, takes him down. Could be considered a dirty move. It looked clean to me. But what does Daniel do? He clocks Bobby straight in the face. He hooks him while he's down on the ground defenseless. Is that not the sign of a bully? Well, you tell me. Lastly, who could forget the Halloween party? Johnny just minding his own business in a bathroom stall, rolling a joint. What does Daniel do? He goes and grabs a hose that's conveniently located inside the bathroom to pour water on poor Johnny and his joint. And naturally, what does Johnny do? He goes after his ass. And you know what? Daniel got what he deserved, an ass whooping. And I mean, Miyagi came back to show what ass whooping really is, but that is the telltale sign of a bully. So I actually had this theory a couple years ago, kind of had that take on the movie, and I don't want to take credit for the Cobra Kai, but it's not too hard to tell that Daniel very easily could be considered the bully of the Karate Kid. Next, the other perspective is that Karate Kid is a coming-of-age movie. So what is that? It's usually a character that over time he grows and learns from his past, finds some introspect to become a better person. And yes, that's exactly what Daniel does. He's adapting to a new environment. He's dealing with getting bullied or bullying other people. And he has his redemption. And the part about The Karate Kid, which I appreciate, they don't spoon feed you Daniel's background, right? They never make mention of his father. There's not one mention of where he is, who he is, what happened, why is poor Lucille working in a restaurant to support her only child on her own. Well, you know what else they don't really spoon feed you about? Miyagi. Well, they kind of do. In the scene where Miyagi gets plastered, he is celebrating the anniversary of the untimely, unfortunate death of his wife and his unborn child. And Daniel learns of that through that particular interaction. But Karate Kid could very well be considered a coming-of-age movie for Mr. Miyagi too. He becomes Daniel's father figure, obviously. Daniel becomes the son of his of sorts. But that carries over more into the Karate Kid Part 2. We go back to Miyagi's roots, back in Okinawa, where he re-encounters Soto, the menacing force, and who could be considered the bully there, right? I mean, they make amends in the end, they hug it out, and they kind of become friends again. He encounters his love interest, where Miyagi in his playboy ways apparently was, I guess, courting her at some point, but then they make mention of his wife who died, so what was he doing really? I mean, was that girl a side chick or not? But anyhow, that is also another way, another perspective to view the Karate Kid, of Miyagi's coming of age as well. Lastly is the perspective that The Karate Kid is just a teeny bopper movie of the 80s. And it is. I mean, you can't help but think that it is because of the fashion, the hairdos, the music. Very underrated soundtrack, by the way. And I think it's a teeny bopper movie as well. But for you white belt students of The Karate Kid, what you don't realize is that it has very much, at least in some circles, the respect and the legitimacy as backed by certain aspects of the production and the outcome results of The Karate Kid. It was directed by John Avildsen, who also directed another revenge underdog story, a coming of age story, not a teeny bopper story. But what movie is that? Rocky. And Rocky was nominated for Oscars. I don't know if it won. I think it won. I remember seeing Stallone holding up a statue. But guess who else received the nomination? Pat Morita, for his role as Mr. Miyagi. I'm sure most of you don't realize that, but he did. When I first heard Pat Morita speak in real person without the Miyagi accent, I was damn near floored. I had no idea of Arnold from Happy Days. That was before my time, and I learned of it after the fact. And when I heard him talk without the accent, it was like I got crane kicked myself. And that's just a testament to Miyagi's or Morita's brilliance. And the fact that Karate Kid earned that nod by way of Pat Morita. I can't think of another teeny bopper movie that got that. Can you? And just by sheer fact of that, I would consider The Karate Kid as a more respected movie in that way. And speaking of the crane kick that I took when I heard Morita talk for the first time, we're going to circle back to the All Valley tournament, which is that culmination of my different perspectives of The Karate Kid. So the scene before the final match with Johnny, if we go back to when Daniel was on the bed, laid out after getting the news that he can no longer continue, he was not medically cleared, he grabs Miyagi by the arm and says, "Hey Miyagi, can you do that thing that you did to me back when we were training?" And Miyagi's like, "Why? You have no use, no point. You proved a point." Daniel says, "Proved a point? What, that I could take an ass whooping?" You know, he says himself, he will never have balance that way. Not with the Cobra Kai, not with Ali, not with himself. So Miyagi does his magical things. He cures Daniel of his knee ailment after getting swept by Bobby. Bobby's revenge, by the way, for getting hooked in soccer tryouts. And we all know in the final scene, yes, there's going to be some spoiler alerts here. And you know what? If you haven't watched The Karate Kid by now, then I don't feel for you, because you know what? We probably couldn't have been friends anyway. So, no mercy. Daniel, with the crane kick, earns the final point. And just like that, he finds his balance with the Cobra Kai. Johnny goes up to him, hands him the trophy. Johnny swallows his pride. And what does he say? "You're all right, LaRusso. Here's your trophy." Next, he wants to find balance with Ali. As soon as he won the match, who comes running from the stands, full speed? Ali with an eye, to give Daniel the biggest hug he's ever gotten. And then he finds balance with himself. He gets hoisted up by the crowd. He hoists the trophy above himself. He is letting out a cry and cheer like you've never heard before. He finds the balance within himself. And who is at the side looking with approval and joy is Mr. Miyagi, Pat Morita, Oscar-nominated person himself. And what really goes beneath the surface is what people don't realize is that the crane kick requires what? You got it. Balance. Throughout the movie, Daniel, after Mr. Miyagi is recovering from his hangover, goes to train on his own at the beach. He's on the stumps. He tries to land the crane kick that he saw Miyagi doing in the distance. But you know what? He couldn't land it. He didn't have the balance of physically landing it. Just like in his own life, he didn't have balance between the Cobra Kai, Ali, and himself. But with one fell swoop, pun intended, Daniel finds his balance with all three of those areas, and he finds the balance with the crane kick to finally land it. Mind blown, no? Well, my mind was blown. And that is all also culminated in what we're here to talk about. Japanese movie tickets and the Karate Kid. So, as you may notice at first glance, this is not the most commonly used poster art that was used for the American release. That one had a shot of Daniel and Mr. Miyagi looking at each other with Daniel in the middle trying to land the crane kick, which he didn't. But this one uses this particular art. I'm not exactly sure why, but I do like the fact, at least for what I just presented, how it's all represented here as well. This photo has Ali, which the American release did not. It also has the Cobra Kai, as shown here, which the American release did not either. So this, in a way, subliminally or not, shows how Daniel is fighting with these forces to find his balance. And just like the final scene of All Valley, it's Mr. Miyagi looking on from the side with his pride, with his consternation and his usual Miyagi ways. And it is shown here. And I'm glad to own this. Unfortunately, this graded a 2, which is not good. It's actually the lowest graded one available. There are a number graded higher, but for me, it was just a way to reconnect to my history, my past, and experiences with the Karate Kid. My own coming of age is shown in here. And it's my favorite movie of all time, like I said. If I ever had a grail, the grail of grail for Japanese movie tickets, it would have been this in a full unused ticket slabbed. If only I could have gotten my hands on that. Well, what do you know? Look what we have here. Grail landed. This is a true Pop One. none other exists than what you see here. Full, as shown here, means that this bottom portion, as you can see compared to this, still is intact. To think that this has never been used, it has survived the test of time since 1984 when it was released. I happen to hold it here, and this is going in my forever collection because I obviously can never get my hands on it again. And for all that it stands for, it's my favorite piece in my collection. So I hope you enjoyed my take and perspective on the Karate Kid, how these tickets connect with me. Thank you all for tuning in.